Hey guys, welcome to part 1 of Game 2 of my video tutorial series on how to play Unfair and win. Of course, I'm referring to the board game that I have before me, but before we dive into Game 2, I'd like to briefly explain why I didn't provide a detailed and thorough analysis in my previous videos on Game 1. The first reason was that Game 1 was very, very long. It stretched over 11 different videos because I was simultaneously explaining the basic mechanics of the game and showing how to play the game. And I didn't need any more length to that game. I didn't want to rehash any details that I'd already discussed during the game. But secondly, a detailed analysis of Game 1 was unnecessary because we were playing with a modified game. We used the First State Game Changer card to simplify the game for our first playthrough. And the purpose of the First State Game Changer card is to help new players familiarize themselves with the game in a more comfortable environment. There's fewer components, less considerations, but this means that Game 1 was incomplete. It's hardly fair to analyze an incomplete game, so that's why I'm excited to officially start Game 2. But as before, let me do a quick, brief overview of the game before we dive in. Unfair is a competitive deck-building card game for 2 to 5 players. In this game, each player is competing to build different theme parks. They are each a different operator of different theme parks, and the goal of the game is for each theme park player to be the one to win. A player wins by having the most victory points at the end of the game, and as I've explained in greater detail in past videos, victory points are earned in a number of different ways. A theme park operator can have victory points at the end of the game because they have a lot of cash in their wallet. $2 equals 1 victory point. They could also have special cast members in there employed at the end of the game. Each different employee card indicates their endpoint victory value at the end of the game. Theme park operators can also have more attractions in the park at the end of the game, which directly translates to more victory points. Theme park operators can have larger attractions, which is indicated by more icons on those attractions. And finally, theme park operators can lose victory points by taking out loans during the game in order to earn money. Now, loans can be taken out at any time, up to 4 per player per game, but once taken out, loans are irrevocable and cannot be repaid in cash. They can only be paid in victory points at the end of the game. But sometimes that investment, taking out the loan, can pay off dividends by the end of the game. Now, players calculate their victory points once the game is ended. The game ends when a predetermined number of rounds have been played. Usually there are 8 rounds in a game. Now, in the past game, we played with only 6 rounds because we modified the game for simplicity's sake. In this game, Game 2, we will be playing with the full and official 8 rounds. Now, each round is composed of several events, represented by a track on the main playing board, which I will unpack in just a moment. Once the event marker has been moved across the event track, one round is complete and another begins. Players keep track of the rounds by drawing 1 city card per round during the Draw City Card event. And once all the city cards have been drawn, players will know that all the rounds are complete. Alright, so let me go ahead and get this unpacked for us. Alright, nice. Let's go ahead and take out the board, which is going to be the main component for keeping track of all of our different card decks. As I mentioned before, there's 2 different sides of the deck. We're not going to be using this one. Since I'm going to be playing both players this round, we're going to do another 2-player game here with all of the text facing us. Now, of course, in this game, we'll be using the same 2 themed decks from Game 1. We'll be using Pirate and Robot. However, we're going to be using all of the cards from these decks this time around. And in the future, we're not going to play this particular combination again. We'll be playing and exploring different decks. So this is going to be the last chance to play both Robot and Pirate, together. Because we'll be exploring the possibilities of other themed decks. Now, as I mentioned in my videos covering Game 1, each player normally selects a themed deck of their choosing. But if you're having a difficult time deciding which deck to select, the game designer, Joel Finch, has thoughtfully included theme deck tokens in the base game. And I've placed them in a Ziploc bag right here. Now notice that they look like small diamonds. Each of these has a different letter, and as I mentioned in previous videos, each letter represents a different deck. N would stand for Ninja, V would stand for Vampire, G would stand for Gangster, and there's also going to be Pirate, Robot, and Jungle. The idea is that you simply take 1 token for each themed deck, throw it into a blind bag, and randomly have each player draw one token out. That way, you're going to end up with a random selection of the different decks. There's, of course, 6 decks in the base game, and there's only supposed to be a maximum of 5 players in a game, so you wouldn't end up picking all of the decks. Of course, if you want a little bit of a mystery, you could have a player throw a mystery token in, and then it's up to them which one they want to choose that particular time instead of picking a particular letter. And, of course, if players prefer a certain theme deck over others, you can put in an extra token with that letter on it to improve the possibility of it being selected. Since we already know what 2 decks we'll be playing with this round, with this game, we'll save these deck letter tokens for later. Of course, expansions also contain extra of these randomizer tokens so that you can also add these to the mix. Right now we need to set up the board. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the 2 decks that we played with last time. You can see here we have Vampire, Jungle, Gangster. This one says Ninja. These were the 2 that we actually played with Pirate. I'm going to go ahead and pull that out right there. And then this one is Robot. These were the 2 we played with last time, but this time we're going to be playing with all the cards. We won't be removing any of them. Now, just to review, setup entails selecting a number of theme decks that matches the number of players in the game. In this case, we have 2 players, so we're going to go ahead and pick 2 theme decks. And then we're going to separate each deck into the sub-decks by color. Remember, each large deck is composed of a number of smaller decks. We're going to go ahead and flip these over so they're facing us. And we're going to go ahead and separate the top labeling cards. Now, what you have to do is separate each theme deck into sub-decks by color. So here we're going to go ahead and separate out the blue Funfair city cards from the red unfair city cards. So 3 in that pile, 3 in that pile. Then we're going to go ahead and separate out all of the blueprint cards from each deck. Now this is where it's helpful maybe to have the players who chose a theme deck help separate the theme deck into its subdecks. So that way everybody's working on separating out a different theme deck, and this step goes a little bit faster. Alright, now as I'm doing this, note that once each theme deck has been separated out into its sub-decks by color, you're going to want to go ahead and combine those colored sub-decks. So really what we should be doing is we should actually be placing all of the blueprint cards together. We should be placing all of the red unfair city cards together. We should be placing all of the blue Funfair city cards together. And we should be placing all of the green event cards together. That'll make it easier in just a moment. So there's also going to be 2 scoring summary cards that go together, 2 lone cards which go together. We're going to place both of those together. These are the 4 showcase cards that we didn't play with in the previous game videos, which we will this time. And then all that remains in each deck are the park cards, and those go together. Alright, so now that we've separated the 2 theme decks into the components, you'll notice that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different decks, different types of cards that we've all combined. Now, of course, we're going to go ahead and need to shuffle these subdecks thoroughly. Nice. Alright, all the subdecks have been shuffled together. Now we need to take a moment to start setting up the board. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just place 4 of these red unfair city cards, one on top of each other, face down, on top of the city deck space on the board. Now, we'll only need 4, so depending upon how many themed decks you shuffle together, you will have quite a few extras. In this case, we have 2 extra unfair red city cards, but if you have more themed decks, you might have more of these. Don't look at them, you'll only need 4 there. Then you come over to the game board, the box, and you place this public notice with this side up, not that side, but this side, right on top of those 4 red unfair city cards. And then you do the same thing with the blue Funfair city cards. You just place 4 of them, one on top of each other, face down, on top of the stack. Of course, depending upon how many themed decks you've shuffled together, you're going to have a different number of these left. In this case, we have 2 blue Funfair city cards and 2 red unfair city cards that are left. These will not be needed in the game, and you should not peek at which ones there are. Otherwise, you'll know what to expect that's coming up in that deck. So just place those into the board box just like that. Nice. Next, go ahead and place each themed deck, each colored deck, on the matching spot on the board. So the blueprint cards will all go there. The park cards will all go here. The event cards will all go here. And you'll notice that there aren't any spots for these remaining types of cards. There's no spot on the board for the showcase cards, for the gate cards, for the loan cards, or the scoring summary cards. That's because you're going to give one of each of these to each player. So first of all, give each player a gate card, then give each player a loan card, then give each player a scoring summary round summary card, and finally give them 2 of these showcase cards. If there's more decks, there will also be more players, so no matter how many themed decks you're playing with, each player will only get 2 showcase cards. Remember, this is going to be secret, so the players can look at their showcase cards, but they can't show it to any other player, and the person who did the shuffling definitely should not. Now, each player is going to go ahead and arrange their starting cards in the following manner. First of all, they need to go ahead and place the main gate card face up in front of them. Flip it over so that they can see the stars and the title. Place it right in front of them on their side of the board. This should be their kind of foundation for their part. Next, their loan card should go face down on top of that. It needs to go right on top and face down because they haven't taken out any loans yet. You can, of course, place these theme cards in the box just like the other unused city cards. Then, the player is going to go ahead and place the round summary card face up with the round, because we're not to the scoring at the end of the game yet, just to the left of that loan card face up. So we're making a bit of a upside down L shape here right now. And that should leave some empty space to both the left and the right of the main gate card. Now place the location token from the board, either the location token we used last game or this mini roller coaster, to the left of the lines of tickets down the center of the board. Now we need to set up the starting player marker. So go ahead and find the starting player marker, which is going to be a small ticket. Here we go. We're going to set that up. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and just plug this right in there. And you're going to give it to the player who has most recently visited a theme park or amusement park. So we're going to place it right here above the loan card for this player. Now, of course, the showcase cards can go anywhere because they can be moved around. I would recommend placing them right here for now. Each player should go ahead and get those organized. Next step, we're going to go ahead and need to give each player coins with a value of 20. In this case, we're going to give them 3 5s and 5 1s. So from the coins that are included in the board game, you're going to go ahead and empty them. Usually a small bowl is nice to keep them contained. So that way, each player can easily access coins and give themselves change throughout the game. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Alright, remember we need coins with a total value of 20 to each player. So usually 3 5s and 5 1s will do the trick. Of course, I'd recommend that the player places those to the right of the loan card so that they're not going to get in the way with the attractions being built to the left and won't get in the way of any employees or expansions, anything that's additional to the left of the main gate. Nice. Alright, so you can see that I've also set up our second player over there. It's just a mirror image of the player here. And that's all there is. We've completed basic setup for this official game, Game 2. And since we're not going to play with the Game Changer cards this game, this also concludes our Part 1, our setup video. I'll join you in Part 2 of Game 2, where we will play all the way through Round 1 and establish our basic strategies for the rest of the game. Ooh, I almost forgot. We need to randomly deal each player 5 park cards. That's what I missed in the last series and during Game 1. So we're going to go ahead and take 5 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and give those to each player. I'd recommend going ahead and just putting them down here because they're going to be using them shortly, and so it doesn't matter if they're kind of in the way a little bit of where they're going to be building stuff in the future. Take another 5 cards for this player. 3, 4, 5. There we go. And then each player should not be looking at any of the cards at this point, just dealing them. So there we go. Each player has money, starting cards. They each have a gate, a loan card, a round summary, and 2 showcase cards. And there we go. Part 1 of Game 2. See you in Part 2.